operatic lyricist Edmond Gondinet contacted Leo Delibes about composing the score for his new opera Lakme, he was no stranger to the performing arts. Delibes had seen his first success in 1873 with his ballet Coppelia, and again in 1876 with the ballet Sylvia. Both ballets were critically acclaimed, and Delibes became Gondinet's first choice of composers for the new piece. The flower duet in the first act of Lakme is rich in full orchestral body and delicate treatment of the melody. The opera revolves around a love interest in the exotic land of India. Although the opera takes place in India, the sound is inherent to French opera, which is a style that Delibes was well versed in and conscious to retain. Delibes did seek out inspiration from other respected composers, while being careful not to let modern style influence his classic French roots. He had made a recent pilgrimage to Bayreuth, Germany to study the work of Wagner just before beginning work on Lakme. He was also inspired by the work of Bizet, who composed Carmen. Lakme debuted at the French Opera Comique on April 14, 1883, and remained a part of the repertoire for the next 80 years. In 1880, just a few years before writing the score for Lakme, Delibes had become the composition professor at the Paris Conservatoire. He was said to have lacked confidence in his abilities to write counterpoint. However, these curious self-doubts were thwarted by his delicate handling of the flower duet in the first act of Lakme. The piece is a duet between the daughter of a Hindu Brahmin, Lakme, and her attendant, Malika, as they gather flowers by the temple. The main theme does not follow standard counterpoint rules and style. The two voices follow primarily parallel and similar motion with excessive parallel thirds. This is symbolic of the two characters' relationship. Lakme holds a prominent role in society, which is translated into the melody, while her attendant follows close behind in a secondary accompanying role. The social status of Malika would not allow her to carry a part as prominent or as interesting as the one Lakme sings. The main structure of the piece is A-B-A-C, with subsections within each main section. Section A provides the main theme of the piece. Within Section A, the structure follows an A, A', B, C, A double prime form. The main theme is repeated twice, first with a half cadence and again with a full cadence, leading to the B subsection, which presents more contrary motion and six between the voices. The smaller subsection B builds to a climax of the piece, where the two voices again follow a new melody line in parallel thirds. Subsection C provides the high point of the piece in measures 16 and 17, where the two voices briefly modulate to the predominant key of E, as evidenced by the absence of A sharp in the melody line. The lyrics in this subsection translate to, "Let us follow the current fleeting, on the wave shimmering, with a hand uncaring come, let us reach the bank where the spring sleeps and the birds sing." This word painting alludes to the high point within the story, where Lakme meets her lover, who comes to the land by boat. The excitement of careless venturing on a path to love sets the story in motion. After the climax, the voices modulate yet again to the parallel minor key of E, with accidental markings of G natural and the absence of C sharp, D sharp, and A sharp. The G natural markings in measure 18 and 19 signify a brief departure from the light and airy major motive to a moment of dark minor tension. The effect of this brief modulation equates to foreshadowing in the story, representing the trials that Lakme's lover endures to win her heart. The voices then return to the original key and tonicize the predominant chord to return back to the main theme. Within the main theme, the lower voice stays within the indicated key, while the soprano sings a melody line above, beginning on the third scale degree. This is atypical of part writing at the time, as the melody is usually based around the tonic, with accompanying parts highlighting other notes within the chord. Again, Delibes deliberately uses the part writing to highlight aspects within each of the characters. Lakme is an adventurous soul, while Malika is the grounding force in their relationship. The May key change occurs in measure 30, where section B begins. The key changes to G major, and although it is still written in compound meter, the meter feels to be in a simple 3/4 in this section. Section B is one of the most interesting moments in the piece, as it deviates significantly from the main theme. In measure 31, there is an accidental marking of F natural and E flat, suggesting a brief key change to B flat major. In measure 33 and 34, we see accidental markings of C sharp and D sharp, briefly modulating to the key of G sharp minor. It also features a solo vocalist instead of the thematic duet, which distinguishes this section from the rest of the piece. The solo vocal showcases the role of the main character as she expresses her fear and her sadness of her father leaving. The translated lyrics of this section are, "But I do not know what subtle fear enfolds me. When my father goes alone to that cursed town, I tremble in fear." Malika responds with words of kindness. She suggests to her that they continue to pick flowers to rid their minds of terrible thoughts, and both voices return to the main theme. The music shows exemplary word painting in measures 46 through 48, translating to, "Yes, near swans with wings of white, let us gather the lotus blue." This line signifies the girl's return to the wonders of innocence, with the soprano delivering a chromatic climb to the leading tone of the main motive. The chords in measure 47 through 49 modulate from F sharp minor to F sharp augmented and resolve on the B major chord of the main theme. The original A section returns after the B section with variations in the voicing, particularly at the end of subsection A, where the two voices climb to a B5 and a G5 before resolving. Some minor variations occur within this section as the soprano ornaments the melody with grace notes and neighbor tones. After this section, there is an instrumental C section, starting in measure 76, which provides a new theme, temporarily playing in the key of E flat. The chord progression then follows an interesting chordal modulation in measures 77 and 78, going from the 7 chord to the minor 6 to the 1 and ending on a half cadence. The dramatic key change and new instrumentation provides a segue into the next scene. The instrumental half cadence is then resolved with an altered return to the main theme. In measure 87, the main theme returns sung instrumentally by the vocalist in the background. The instrumental C section returns with different voicing and the piece diminuendos with the vocalist humming the theme once again. This is an interesting moment in the piece as well. It ties the main theme to the supplementary themes within the piece and provides an effective transition to the next act of the opera. Overall, the themes and structure of this piece support its purpose as a storytelling element. Despite Lakme's success at the Opera Comique and its repertoire status for the next half-century, some critics at the time were less thrilled with Delibes as a composer, and found the opera to be overrated in a sense. One article from an 1885 edition of the Musical Times passively dismisses Delibes as a small success in only the last few years, and by no means a young composer. The critic attributed the overall success of the premiere to the talent of the young American soprano Marie Van Zandt, for whom the part of Lakme was originally produced and cast for. The critic does note in the same breath that the music is always agreeable and passes along so pleasantly that critics care not to dissect it too much. Though the author has a distasteful impression of the opera as a whole, they could not ignore the elegance and beauty of the music. On the contrary, over 100 years later, Lakme was presented with great reviews at the Sydney Opera House in Australia. An article from Australian Opera in 1994 acclaimed Lakme to be a work of great charm and melodiousness that deserves to be seen more. The Flower Duet has also made a resurgence in modern media, as it has been featured in British Airways commercials and numerous advertisements. Although some may believe it to be a misuse of the grace of the piece, the modern use proves that the work is truly a timeless masterpiece. Overall, the Flower Duet lends itself to set up the plot of the opera. It begins in a major key with the beauty and innocence of Lakme and Malika picking flowers and gradually introduces dark minor motives that represent tragic plot twists throughout the story. Leo Delibes composed memorable melodies and deliberate key changes to communicate the complexity of the storyline. The piece is effective in its purpose within the opera and features a melody that has stood the test of time.